Your Daily 180, 180 seconds of pure Bible study.
Welcome to this, your Daily 180 Bible study. We're in James chapter 2, verses 14 through 26, and we're talking about saving faith. Yesterday, we noticed in James chapter 2, verse number 14, it tells us that faith is absolutely essential. Verse number 14, what does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? And it's a rhetorical question. And the answer is no, because he's going to give an illustration. You can't just care about someone. You need to do something. If you genuinely care about people, you're going to do something. And so then in verse number 17, he says, thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. He repeats that thought again in verse number 20. Faith without works is dead. And then again in verse number 26, for as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Now this is a difficult concept, because we see over and over again throughout Scripture the idea that we cannot work our way to heaven. In Romans chapter 4, verses 1 through 4, there we find that Abraham is commended not for his works, but for his faith. And he goes on and he talks about if it was because of his works, he would have something to brag about, because then it would be counted as wages. There, the Scripture is talking about works in the sense of meritorious works, earning your salvation. You can't earn your salvation. But here in James is talking about the idea of an active obedience. Now, how do I know that? Well, somehow we have to reconcile the two together. And how do you define a word? You never define a word in isolation. There are relatively very few words that you can define in absolute isolation by going to a dictionary or by going to a lexicon and defining that word. You have to know how it is used in context. How do you define the word fast? And someone says, well, it means to run quickly. Not necessarily. Could it mean that a person stands firmly? He's standing fast? Oh, yeah. Could it mean that a person's not eating? Oh, yeah. You see, you define a word in the context in which it's being used. And in James chapter 2, when he talks about works, obviously he's talking about action. He's talking about action that's been approved by God. That is the idea of obedience. And obedience and faith must be wedded together. Join us tomorrow for your Daily 180.